today I'm going to show you how to make homemade pasta. So you barely need anything, just about 2.5 cups of flour, 2 large eggs, 2 to 3 tablespoons of water, about a tablespoon of table salt, and you'll need a pasta maker. Let's start. One of the coolest things about making pasta is that you get to make it right smack on the counter. So, let's start. First things first, get 2 cups of flour. It doesn't have to be very exact, so I'm just gonna flatten it with my finger. There's 1. And there's 2. Okay, now I'm going to make a hole in the middle for the eggs. Try to make it kind of deep because sometimes, well, you don't want the eggs to spill out the top. It makes a huge mess. There. Before you crack the eggs into there, we have to get the salt ready. So, this is about a tablespoon. Just pour it in. There. And put into the water. And mix it up until it dissolves. Almost dissolved. While we're waiting for that to dissolve, let's crack the eggs in. That's 1. And 2. Now you could whisk it with a fork, or you could use a whisk, and just break the yolks and get it nice and whisked up. There. Pretty cool, right? It's like a bowl. Then you're gonna pour some of your salt water in there. Don't pour all of it, just a little to start. You could always add more later, but you don't want the pasta to be too sticky or else it won't go very well through the pasta maker. Alright, now comes the hard part. I'm going to try to mix this up without spilling too much. There it goes. It's okay if that happens to you. It happens to me every time. Okay, so I've kneaded up my dough a little bit. As you can see, it's really dry. Also, it's still kind of all over the place. So you can use a bench scraper or your hand, like that. But I suggest a bench scraper to just scrape everything into your dough. There, see? And then since it's so dry, I think I'm gonna add some more water. Remember that only a little tiny bit could go a really long way, and you have to be careful because you do not want it sticky. Luckily, if you mess up a little bit and it gets a little too sticky, you'll know when it's sticky. It'll stick to your hands and everything. You could just add some extra flour and your problem will be solved. Takes forever, I'm still kneading. As you can see, my hands are totally disgusting. So you could use some flour to help you get all the dough and stuff off. See? So as you can see, there's lots of flour and crumbs and stuff over here. So that'll usually knead into your dough if you knead it for long enough. But if it's too dry and it's just not working, then you could put a little bit more water onto it and knead it up into a little ball all alone. And then you could just add that little bit into your big clump of dough. There, it's all finished. So once it's finished, it should look like this and be pretty dry, like it doesn't stick to you or anything. And then you're just gonna roll it into a nice tight ball. That's good. And get some plastic wrap. And cover it up. There. And then you're just gonna let it sit there for 10 to 20 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes. So it's time for me to roll out my dough. First, make sure to put flour on it. You have to roll it out pretty flat so that it could go through the pasta maker. Finished rolling it out. So before you start, make sure that you have lots of flour on hand, like a lot of the flour that you didn't yet use, because you're gonna need it a lot so that the pasta doesn't stick to other pasta. So now you're gonna cut it. Just cut it into 4 equal sections. They don't have to be perfectly equal, but try to make them about the same height so that once your pasta is all rolled out, it's all the same length. Okay, so you're gonna put it through the thickest setting or maybe the second thickest setting on the pasta machine. And then in between rolling it each time, you're gonna put a little bit of flour on each sides. Not a ton, but definitely do it because when I first started making pasta, I didn't do it and I stacked them on top of each other and they stuck together pretty bad. I had to start all over again. Okay, so I finished rolling all my pasta at the thickest setting. So now I'm going to turn it down 2 settings. So for me, it's down to 4 now. And I'm gonna roll it out again. Notice how when I roll my pasta through the thinner settings, it gets very long. So you normally won't want your pasta this long because after this it's gonna get even thinner and it's gonna be like even longer. So you could cut it in half, but if you cut one in half, you should probably cut all of them in half or so that they're equal. You could cut one into thirds if you have to, anything you have to do. Don't forget to continue putting flour on your pasta in between rolling it every time. Even though it sounds like a lot of flour, and it is kind of a lot of flour, it's definitely not worth it to save the flour. Okay, I finished putting it through the 4th setting, so now I'm just going to turn it down one more. For those of you who have a different type of pasta machine than I do, just put the pasta through until it feels really thin, like thicker than paper, but definitely thinner than mine is right now. See? So I finished with all my pasta, rolling it out. Now I just have to cut it. So I remove this handle so that it makes fettuccine. And then before you cut it, make sure that you sprinkle flour wherever you're gonna lay it out. There. Alright. Oh, I've learned that a lot of the time, if it's like a triangle, like this one, I used to put it in with the smaller side first. But if you put in with the bigger side first, it works better because you could catch all your pasta as you're getting it out, right, and have as little as possible fall out of your hand. Here, let me show you. Make sure that your pasta doesn't fold at all. There. This is the moment of truth, because if you made your dough correctly and if you made it the perfect consistency, then your pasta will cut apart and none will stick together. But if you didn't, then sometimes it sticks together like this and you have to pull each piece apart, which is really, really frustrating and not fun to do. So make it the right consistency. So when you cut your pasta afterwards, make sure to lay it out so that none is touching each other, like I did, see? Also, when you're about to put your pasta into the pasta cutter, it's much less likely to stick together if you rub it with flour real quick before you put it in. So I finished with all of my pasta, and now I'm gonna dry it out because I'm not gonna eat all of it right now. So to dry it out, you could just hang it in the oven. I'll show you. So I'm just gonna drape it over. Make sure that's clean first. Some's gonna fall off, but that's okay. There. Oops. Alright, and then just drape it and make sure that there's not one on top of another. You could make them touch each other like that, see? Just not like that. And then in a few hours, it should be nice and dry. All finished. Don't turn the oven on. Now, just put it in. And let it dry. That's it for today. Just let your pasta dry for a couple more hours, or if you want to cook it right away, throw it in some boiling water and you'll know that it's done cooking when it floats. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Chloe-Elise's Culinary Camp.